Hello, good morning, and welcome to this Dawn Busters Taste Challenge. I have two Canadian blended whiskeys. They're both produced by the Sazerac Company in Canada, because they have a distillery in Canada, and they're both bottled in Kentucky at Buffalo Trace. Okay, now one of these is produced for WD Liquors, Winn-Dixie Liquors, and it's exclusive to that grocery chain. It says it, and they're owned by Aldi today, so I don't know what's going to change now that Aldi took them over this past month. Some of the stores are being converted into Aldi, and I don't know if Aldi might decide they can start selling liquor in America through their Winn-Dixie acquisition. I don't know how that's going to work, but anyway, this is premium. Of course, everything's premium, regardless of the price. Premium Canadian blended whiskey with natural flavors. Canadian whiskey very commonly, or I should even say usually, has flavoring added. It's allowed under the law. And it says worldwide importers, Kentucky, but worldwide importers is nothing more than an alias name registered with the U.S. government for Buffalo Trace. All right, they're just they call it. Can't speak, Mr. R. Good morning to you. They call it an assumed name, and it'll just say DBA, doing business as worldwide importers. Okay, but it's got the same phone number as Sazerac Buffalo Trace. All right, anyway. I bought this and it was $13.99. And this is not even the cheapest WD liquor. They've got vodka for $11.99 in this big bottle. And I think they only sell plastic handles. If you go to Albertsons, they have their own line of private label from Sazerac, but they'll offer them in the glass 750s or the plastic handles. And sometimes other sizes too, like plastic 375s and all that. All right. So Sazerac clearly makes a whole lot of money doing these contracts for store chains. There used to be Katz and Bestall vodka, Katz and Bestall bourbon, and all of that. It's the same outfit. The warehouse is right there on United States Highway 90 in New Orleans, right by the railroad track. Good place to put it. Next to the railroad track, next to the main highway. So yeah, they and right next to the river. So you got shipping, train, highway. Okay. And I told my friend David, I said in a video, I said, that's right close to your house, huh? He said, yeah, it's in my backyard, not literally, but almost. He's got a hospital in his backyard, but hospital property, but he could walk to the warehouse in certainly less than 5 minutes. All right, anyway. And there's a big sign out in front, Taka Vodka. That sign is that big billboard is always right where the road makes a big dog leg turn. It says Taka Vodka. Sazerac used to own the warehouse, but they had to sell it because the U.S. government said you can't own a distributor and the distillery also. Okay, so they sold it, probably to friends. Just like Anheuser-Busch was forced to sell all their distilleries because the U.S. government said you can't own a brewery and a distributorship. So they sold all the distributors to the Bush family members. I think Southern Eagle of Florida is owned by one of the Bush people. Okay, but anyway, I'm going to get too deep into that. This is the Northern Lights, introduced in 1971 by Barton Distilling. Oh, sorry, by Hiram Walker Company, which is now bought out. But they used to have their own, and you see when you shine it under the light there, it makes the leaf makes a different color light. You see it, it'll make the Northern Lights on the leaf. Even it'll be like green at some points, depending how the light hits it. It's like a little effect on the leaf. Yeah, so it says since 1879, but don't fool yourself. That it's got the crown for Canada, their government, a kingdom, and King Charles III. Look, this came out in 1971. Yeah, Hiram Walker has been around since 1879, but like I said, they got bought out. And if you read the label, it says Barton Imports. But Barton Imports got bought out by the Sazerac Company in 2009. So this is a typical Barton bottle. It's got the diamonds on the bottle shoulder. Call that the shoulder. Head, neck, shoulder, body. No arms, no legs. Okay. It's brown glass, which is good, protects it from the light, and the bottle's mostly full. Now, there is a small batch version of this. I've seen it when Sazerac had their old website before they revamped it and took all the small brands down. But yeah, they used to show this one, the white label, and they showed a red label. It was red. It was called small batch. I think it was aged 12 years. But I never seen it in a store, but obviously it wouldn't be inexpensive like this. I could buy this at Winn-Dixie. A handle is like, well, it's not $13.99 because they're going to always brand at the cheapest. It's like $18.99. But they had a closeout. They were getting rid of the glass bottles at Winn-Dixie. I don't know why, but they decided to get rid of these, and they had it in the discount basket for $4.74. But it rang up $4.75. But I wasn't going to quibble over a penny with that price. $4.75. Normal price for this bottle. This day and age, probably like $11.99. I could check Total Wine and More. They probably carry it in some of their stores. Another interesting thing, when it first hit the market, it was called the Northern Light, singular, the Northern Light. You can look at old image searches, and in the 70s, they had ads for it in the newspaper when Hiram Walker used to do a lot of heavy advertising. And Sazerac, they don't advertise really, so you'll never see an ad for it. But it was called the Northern Light. And actually, I think if you look at the Total Wine and More website, they're showing a photo of an old bottle that says the Northern Lights. Man, it's funny. But the Northern Light. Yeah, Sazerac. They're saying Barton at the bottom, but right here, Sazerac.com, and they got their phone number. And same thing over here, Worldwide Imports, Frankfort, Kentucky. Yeah, sure. It's Buffalo Trace. You say, well, I went on a tour of Buffalo Trace. I didn't see these things getting bottled. You're not going to. That's not what they want the tourists to see. They want the tourists to see Buffalo Trace, Wheatley vodka, which is their premier vodka. They want you to see that kind of stuff. Blanton's, you can go to a bottling house if they bottling it that week, because they don't always bottle that. So yeah, they do these brands on the, the down low, as they say, and quietly. Herbie says, hi, sir. Hello, Herbie. Daniel says, Four Loko update, please. New Sapporo is 9%. There's a new Sapporo at 9%. Okay. Well, we'll see about all of that. Four Loko is not getting updated if they keep doing the artificial sweetener. I'm not buying any product with artificial sweetener. And if I do buy this on accident, you see what I'm saying? If I look at the label and it says artificial sweetener, I just put it back on the shelf. If it's not real sugar, I don't buy it. I'm sorry. I'm just not buying it. Okay, 1970, made a little hiss. 1971. You can find old ads. Like I say, if you do an image search, type in the Northern Lights, or you can type in the Northern Light singular, and type in an advertisement. It'll show, not many, but it'll show some, typical alcohol ads from magazines back then, Field and Stream, Sports Illustrated, stuff like that. Obviously, this was never advertised as a private label. The only place you could buy it is WD. But they have over 400 stores. I think 500 stores total. But there's over 400 in just Florida. Over 400 Winn-Dixies in Florida. And they had a subsidiary in the Bahamas called City Market, which was identical to Winn-Dixie. When I went to the Bahamas in 2001, I went to City Market to buy some bread and some stuff to eat. other stuff to eat. And I said, this is exactly like Winn-Dixie, except everything was says City Market. But they sold all the Winn-Dixie brands, the same private label, everything. But I think they sold that to somebody else, some investment group. So now it might look just like Publix, whatever. But so the WD Liquors Canadian whiskey is a little bit darker. Honestly, it's a shade darker. Not much difference, but there's a difference. This one's more gold. This one's a little bit more amber. And don't they both say with natural flavors? Sazerac, I got to give them credit. I said this before. Yeah, natural flavor. They put out some low end stuff now. You say gin, yeah, gin. They put out doggone Crystal Palace, and they put out Crystal Palace vodka, which I have seen around. They put out Zachariah Harris bourbon. That is like their lowest grade bourbon. Ooh. But it is sour mash, and it is straight bourbon, believe it or not. I'm passing judgment on it, right? Like saying, "Ugh," but I never had it, so it's hard to kind of silly of me to judge it. I have had their eggnog, Zachariah Harris eggnog. Was actually pretty good, and that does sell around here every Christmas season, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. It sells. It's always the cheapest one, but it's always sells out. Every bottle goes. They got some cheap rum, boy. Aristocrat, not Aristocrat. That's Heaven Hill. What's it called? Calypso. Whoa. Brandy, yep. Hartley brandy. Is there any cheaper brandy than Hartley? There might be, but I'd be afraid to drink it. I'm really not joking on that. Well, I mean, just think of any class of liquor. They got the lowest of the low. On the other hand, they put out super high priced stuff. They've got Sazerac cognac brandy. Sazerac cognac comes from France, and that's $150 a bottle. You might score it for $130 on a low end sale. So they, bourbon, same thing. Buy a 6-pack case of Pappy Van Winkle series, different ones. It's like $3,500 for the 6-pack. So they hitting all marks, and then they do the mid range. You know what I'm saying? Buffalo Trace, Wheatley vodka, which is a premium vodka, but it's not expensive by any means. It's not a cheapo. Yeah, so they do those expensive rums and mezcals. Those rums be like $55 a bottle. Those one comes from Trinidad and Tobago. No, one comes from Trinidad. I think one comes from Tobago. There's 2 different islands, but it's the same country. One comes from Barbados, and I don't want to get into all of it. Now, they may have been producing this Winn-Dixie WD Liquors Canadian since the 1950s. Could have been around since the 50s, because my whole life I remember it. Now, I know I did not research alcohol when I was 10 or when I was 5, but I remember seeing it. Like, they would have family parties, stuff like that, Easter Sunday or something, and they would always have that because they knew it was inexpensive, and they knew people want to guzzle through it, so they would have it. But if you went to anybody's house around here, they would always have this kind of stuff. And actually, they still have it, and it still sells pretty well. Good day, Mr. T. Hey, Jean-Pierre. I'm talking about this WD Liquors, wink, wink, Winn-Dixie Liquors, Canadian whiskey. I don't think they have that in Alabama, though. But I don't really research Winn-Dixie in Alabama, right? But they might have a Winn-Dixie liquor store in Alabama, next to the grocery. I don't know. In Florida, that's how they do it. If you go to Florida, they can't sell liquor in a grocery store. So they just build a separate building next to it. It might be attached to it. And you just got to walk out the front of the grocery store and then walk in the front of the liquor store. Same thing in Texas. They got Fiesta grocery stores. And next to it, touching it, is Fiesta Liquors. You said, well, it's kind of dumb, really. It is dumb. I agree. It doesn't make any sense. The regulation is nonsensical. But in Louisiana, they don't have that. I mean, they might in certain parishes. That's up to the town if they want to have that rule. I know Baton Rouge used to have that rule. They don't anymore. But generally in Louisiana, they'll sell the liquor right in the store. Like at Walmart here, right on in the store. Right on the aisle. You can just pull it off the aisle, off the shelf. Albertsons, Winn-Dixie has a little liquor section with a little gate that opens and closes. They're kind of watching people, they might have a problem with people stealing. So they got eyes on you if you're in there. And, some people are ignorant. They go in there and still try to shoplift and probably get caught. Mathern's, most of their liquor's behind the counter. Because they would rather have it more secure. Okay, now anyway, but like I said, it depends on the store. I was in a convenience store Saturday, and their liquor was right on the aisle. Of course, the guy's watching you like a hawk. I would too. No Winn-Dixie here in Georgia. Nope, that's right. They have Harvey's though. Saw some really good prices for some Canadian whiskey at Costco the other day. See, I'm not a member of Costco, so I've literally never been in a Costco store in my life. That's a true story. I don't know if it was $13.99 for the bottle. Okay. Yeah, they have Harvey's though. They do have Harvey's in Florida and Georgia, and Harvey's owned by Aldi also now. Because Winn-Dixie owned Harvey's, and now Aldi owns Winn-Dixie, so consequently, they own Harvey's and Winn-Dixie. And Trader Joe's. They're taking over, people. The Germans are taking over. But this time with money instead of trying to use weapons. It's better way to do it. Okay, taste time. Will I be able to tell these apart? It'll be close because these Sazerac Canadian whiskeys will be very similar. Package stores here in Georgia are pretty good. I believe that. As you know, Louisiana doesn't have any liquor stores really, because why would you open a liquor store when everybody can get liquor at the grocery store and Walmart? They tried to open a liquor store in this town. It didn't last. I felt sorry for them because I was like, why did you think you needed to open a liquor store? There's already 7 of them embedded in the grocery store. Okay, the Northern Lights. Let's see if Sazerac Sazerac Total Wine sells it. No, they don't. What do you know? Let's do a quick search here. The Northern Lights whiskey. Market View Liquor has it for I don't know where they're located. I think somewhere up north. Yes, I'm over 21. They have it for $16.99. That's what I thought. $2 less than Winn-Dixie, I think. I'm talking about for the handle. Shamrock Wine. Lisa's Liquor Barn. Molly's Spirits. They're all selling handles. But like I say, you can get the glass bottle, as evidenced by me having a glass bottle. Joe Canals. That's a pretty popular place. So I'm not going to keep going through this. Let's see. Shamrock's got it for $19.99. That's a little much. And look, they're showing the old label, the Northern Light. Totally different label. $18.99. That's Winn-Dixie's price. Molly's Spirits, $15.99. And they're showing the old label, the Northern Light. Been copy and pasting that photo probably since 1991. Joe Canals, they're also showing the old label. $16.99. So as you can see, the price pretty constant. At the highest end, it's $19.99. At the low end, it's $15.99. But why would I buy that when I can get the Winn-Dixie for $13.99? That's assuming it's just as good. Never buy hard liquor in Alabama. Oh, no, 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 no. I learned that lesson the hard way. Morning. Cheers to you, Tom. All right, time to make it count. Here we go. And it just smell like regular old whiskey. Basic, grain. Sazerac, they tend to go a little heavy on the rye. So it'll be a little more rye spice that may or may not appeal to you. They're adding the flavors, but they're telling you right there on the bottle, oh, this one smells more flavor. It smells more Winn-Dixie-ish, like heavy vanilla. Like they put the vanilla flavor in, and then they said, oh, add more. Oh, that's the really cheap stuff. You got to mask all the... I'm not saying that they did that, but I think that's what they did. I can't say for sure. Tasting. I don't know. It's pretty sugary sweet and vanilla-ish. You know why these are popular? I mean, they have a following. Don't get me wrong. They have a following. They're no Crown Royal, but they're always on the shelf, and it's never covered with dust, ever. Did someone buy Anchor Brewing? Yes. The man who owns Chobani Yogurt, Wings and Pizza, and he says he's going to revitalize it and bring it back by the end of the year, sometime later this year. We're going to see about that, though. A lot of these investors make all these promises, then nothing ever happens. Okay, so these are never covered with dust, and they're always in stock. You can tell it's fresh. It's like they're coming in. There's a lot of turnover, and that's always a sign that the product's popular. Hartley Brandy. We could say what we want about Hartley Brandy, and I could say a lot, and most of it's not positive. But they always got it, and it's always fresh, and they got the big glass bottles and the little glass bottles. All right. Actually, it's funny. This one has very little flavoring smell, but it's heavy on the flavor, the vanilla. Whoa. This one has a lot of flavoring smell, but it's low on the flavor, and it's a lot of corn and especially rye, I mean, it tastes almost like a rye whiskey, tell you the truth, which it's not. But they used to call Canadian whiskey rye. People would call it that as a nickname. They would just say, get some rye. They meant Canadian whiskey. This is like 50 years ago. Like you heard that old song, drinking whiskey and rye. What they meant, drink. I used to wonder what they talking about. Well, they were drinking whiskey, probably American whiskey, obviously, and then rye, meaning probably Canadian Club or Crown Royal. Talking about in 1971. All right, so now that terminology has died away. People today just say Canadian whiskey. I like the flavoring. I'm not saying you should drink whiskey with flavoring. I'm saying I like the flavoring. Which Canadian whiskeys add flavoring? This I'll never be able to tell you because they don't have to tell you if they add it. You see what I'm saying? They don't have to say it. Sazerac does, but other companies don't. So does Crown Royal add flavoring? Maybe. I never wrote them an email and asked. Never cared enough to ask. If they do, it's minimal because they already got flavored Crown Royals anyway. But it's minimal. Canadian Club, you could tell they add flavoring. Like when you drink Canadian Club, it's very vanilla-ish. And I know that vanilla is not coming from wheat or barley or rye whiskey. It's clearly coming from some kind of flavoring. It's not off-putting, but it's a little cake icing tasting, So, oh, well, it tastes good, so I like it. All right, over here. It is interesting, wings and pizza. Okay, so this one, same thing. You get the flavoring. Oh, and by the way, American blended whiskey can add flavoring also. And once again, same rule. They do not have to disclose it. But they both have limits on them. In the United States, the limit is not to exceed 2.5% of the volume. It tells you that on the handbook. Now they have updated the handbook, so I need to go recheck it. It might have changed, but the last like 3 weeks ago, I was checking the website and it said we're currently updating the handbook. So I don't know if they finished, but it say add any natural flavoring that you want. It's up to you, but it's not to exceed 2.5% of the volume. A Canadian whiskey is the same thing. If you read their regulation, just say natural flavoring. It does not detail what that can be, but it says, oh yeah, it doesn't say anything. Now people claim it can't go above 9.09% of the volume, but I didn't see that in the regs. They might have changed that because it doesn't say, like, I couldn't find anything current from today, 2024 Canadian government saying can't go above this number. And I went all through it and I didn't see anything, but people are making that claim, but they're not footnoting it. Like, but where did you get that from? I read that years ago, but the thing is the regulations got updated. So how do we know they kept that? They could have just dropped it. If you got information that's definitive, let me know. But don't say, well, I know somebody that works there. That doesn't tell me anything. I know somebody that works there. Tastes fine. But I always did like Canadian whiskey. Other people, you say Canadian whiskey, they come at you with a knife, you know. But I'm not hostile to it. I could see how a bourbon connoisseur would be offended by it, but I don't think they're really aiming for that market. Now, some of these bottles, not these two, but some bottles will say produced under the supervision of the Canadian government. Well, that's a meaningless statement because all whiskey is produced under, all legal whiskey is produced under the supervision of the Canadian government. That's the law. It has to be, unless it's some illicit, illegal production, which happens in every country. It's like when they say on the whiskey bottles in America, this whiskey is regulated by the U.S. government. Like they're trying to make it special. Like, no, this one's regulated. They supervise it. Well, all whiskey is regulated. Like meat, this meat is inspected by the U.S. government. Well, all has to be inspected by the U.S. government. That's the law. It's the Meat Inspection Act, 1906. But, you put anything on a label, try to sell it, like aged in oak. Interesting, as opposed to every other whiskey in the world that's aged in oak. Right. Okay, but honestly, these are even. Which one tastes better? Maybe, and I mean really maybe the one here in my right hand, which seems to have a little bit more rye component. But honestly, I would just buy whatever one is cheaper, meaning I would buy the WD brand because it's at least $2 cheaper per handle bottle. So save them $2. And I'm not losing much and probably not really anything in quality. Okay. And we know it's from the same people. But I think this is the Northern Lights. No. Yeah, I think this is the Northern Lights because of the flavor, not the aroma. It is. Got it. Because when I tasted it, it seemed to, I don't know, it had a lot of flavor in it. It's just something, maybe it was a flashback to when I had it previously because I already had one bottle. I went through one bottle already, and then I saw that one for $4.75. So I guess I'm getting a second one. But I won't buy any more. Don't need to. Okay, so yeah, that's it. We'll see what happens with the next taste challenge. Y'all take care now. Thanks for watching.